Welcome. My name is Mary Cummins, and today I'm continuing my reaction to the book Fuel by H.G. Tudor. Today we're on chapter 9, which is entitled Fuel Interrupted. And what H.G. Tudor tells us in this chapter is that he fairly quickly gets tired of the love bombing phase and moves on to the devaluation phase. Now, this is disconcerting to his partner, who thinks that they're building something together. And what we find is that the devaluation phase changes the dynamics of the relationship. Then I'm going to talk about operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner. Operant conditioning is based on the type of learning where behavior is shaped by the after effects of one's actions. He teaches about how rewards and punishments affect behavior. Then I will talk about drugs and how the devaluation phase in interpersonal relationships is mirrored in something like drugs, where youth are drawn into drugs that destroys their souls. And as they get addicted, they are abusing their mind, their emotions, and their physical bodies. And what we find is that those without a conscience, it is a control mechanism, and their goal is to destroy the psyche of the youth and of the people. Then I will talk about the confederate within, where the empath either decides to stay, or by that time there would be a sympathetic person. They would decide to stay in the relationship, the abusive relationship, or move out and then get drawn back again and again and again. H.G. Tudor has said that the love bombing phase can last from 6 to 18 months, more or less. Then your familiarity sets in, and he starts to get bored with the staleness of positive fuel and your loving care, and with this, the devaluation phase kicks in. Because of the familiarity and the staleness that they experience, they believe you're not giving them the right fuel, as often with the necessary potency, or giving them the amounts that they require. So the narcissist sees this as a betrayal. They think in black and white, and your failure to give them what they need means that you are threatening their control. And now they're going to punish you for it. For the narcissist, this refreshes the relationship. They draw in negative fuel from your reactions of upset, hurt, confusion, anger, jealousy, and so forth. Generally then, the narcissist will start to cheat and start searching for your replacement. In the devaluation period, the narcissist shouts at you, beats you up, gives you the silent treatment, uses word salad, and lots of different unpleasant manipulations that tells you that you're simply not good enough. This astonishes you, and you double down trying to please and get back to the utopia of love bombing. He plays on this, using his yo-yo string, but you never get back to the ideal phase. It is all downhill from there. He might praise a particular dress you wear when you go out at the weekend, and then you're going out to dinner, say on a Wednesday, and something happens at work and he gets a little upset with you. He comes home and you're wearing the same dress, and he says, "Why are you wearing that thing? It doesn't suit you." Tudor claims that narcissists do not remember what they said a few days ago, when she says, quote unquote, "But you said on Sunday that it looked good on me." He will deny that he ever said it. Whatever compliment you get about your clothes or anything else, It is not genuine. He's simply looking for fuel.
Tudor's behavior reminds us of operant conditioning, a behavioral psychology that was introduced by B.F. Skinner, where behavior is influenced by rewards or punishment. Here's a quote from the internet that describes Skinner's experiments on, quote-unquote, random reinforcement. In these experiments, food was delivered at unpredictable intervals, regardless of the animal's actions. Rather than remaining passive, the animals began to repeat specific behaviors that coincidentally occurred just before the random food delivery, believing these actions caused the reward. For example, pigeons developed repetitive behaviors like turning in circles or hopping on one leg, even though their actions had no actual effect on receiving food. This phenomenon illustrates how random reinforcement can create strong, persistent behaviors based on perceived patterns, even when no real connection exists between the behavior and the outcome. End of quote. The animals act out superstitious behaviors, like the pigeon hopping on one leg, believing that behavior caused the food reward. So too, if Tudor's partner thinks that wearing that dress will please her partner, she is missing the point. As far as Tudor is concerned, she might as well be a dress.
H.G. Tudor is an aware narcissist who is a psychopath, and he also calls himself a sociopath. And he will not push it too far, as he doesn't want to lose his ongoing source of supply from his intimate partner. He advises other narcissists to be aware of this pitfall or danger to their supply. In this chapter, Fuel Interrupted, we learn that he wants to keep you at all costs. He has no connection to God, and he too becomes addicted to the fuel or light that you supply to him. They will offer to take care of you while moving you into submissive slavery. This does appeal to the abused girl child archetype who fears the uncertainty of the unknown. Quote unquote, better the devil you know. You understand the negatives of what you have, and your low opinion of yourself gets you to choose the familiarity, even if there are moments of terror. For the unloved girl child, any attention, even abuse, is better than being ignored. For the narcissist, any hint of you wanting to disengage from the relationship is wounding and causes narcissistic injury. It is an affront to their superiority or pride mechanism. They experience the injury at the intellectual level. They are fanatics because they do not have empathy and don't care at all. The fallen angels do walk among us as these conscienceless ones, and we forget that the devil came to rob, kill, and destroy through mental, emotional, and physical abuse. We see organizations enticing the youth to get on weed. That is a known gateway drug. It is touted as harmless with healing benefits, and though it does have some good properties, it is safer to use alternatives. It is known to arrest psychological growth and creates passivity and a lazy, irresponsible workforce. For this reason alone, I believe it should be banned and made illegal. Cannabis is considered as a quote-unquote stupefying drug by international agreement. It also cuts you off from your own spirit or Christ self. Gabriel Nahas, in his book, Keep Off the Grass, quoted a renowned user, Baudelaire, who said that there is a fatal flaw in the habit of using hashish. Quote, one who has recourse to poison in order to think will soon be unable to think without taking poison. End of quote.
Gabriel Nahas's book is a scientific inquiry into the biological effects of marijuana. He says that cannabis impairs thinking and behavior, and that young people who use cannabis become apathetic and they lose individual ambition and social responsibility, and do not solve their emotional problems. And it is known as a gateway to stronger drugs like opium, heroin, and today fentanyl. THC is the main psychoactive substance of cannabis, and it stays in the body for a long time, going into the fatty tissue of the liver and other organs. And Nahas's own experiments expose that other cannabinoids besides THC have biological effects. They impair dividing cells. Marijuana adversely affects the reproductive process and poses potential genetic and epigenetic damage to the offspring.
And here's a quote from one of Gabriel Nahas's own experiments. It says, "The incidence of cells missing a full chromosomal complement was twice as great among marijuana smokers as in non-smoking controls. In testing 3 different chemicals of delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, that is THC, cannabinol, which is CBN, and cannabidiol is CBD. The THC, as we knew, was a proven psychoactive substance. The CBN and CBD, however, were considered to be non-active components of marijuana that seemed to have no effect whatsoever on the body. To our surprise, the CBN and CBD molecules were even more potent than THC when it came to inhibiting DNA production. In other words, in a test tube, they were just as active and just as dangerous as THC." End of quote.
We learn here that many lies prevail about CBD in particular, but many other drugs too. The drug war is mostly a pretense, or in Tudor's terms, a construct. There is an airport that is within the Fort Bragg airspace that is a center for international drug trafficking. And according to Seth Harp, when anything comes to light around this subject, it is covered up by the military command. As H.G. Tudor has told us, people are seen as objects, and the chaos and destruction through drugs is welcome to those who sit at the top and laugh as they loose their enemy, the regular people who have a tie to God. They resent those who feed them.
H.G. Tudor acts out of fear about losing those who are close to him, and has created a chart to let us know how much he is going to pursue those who are moving out of his life. For an intimate partner, they're going to make every effort to pursue them, no matter whether the move has anything to do with them or it is just work-related, versus leaving them deliberately, thus causing a narcissistic insult. For outer circle friends and colleagues, he's going to make a medium effort where he tries to maintain face-to-face contact. For strangers and minions, he will make a low effort by text, email, or phone. If a colleague leaves, Tudor will increase the supply of fuel by applying pressure on other colleagues around him. He's not at all concerned about how these people feel. All that matters to him is that he increases the quality of fuel supply for himself through some type of devaluation. In this way, he can delay replacing the colleague that left. If a stranger can be hoovered back in, their ranking increases and they are likened to an inner circle friend. The hoovering back in of an intimate partner, especially if they are tearful and apologize, is the most potent fuel that he can get. If he has hoovered you back in, say 3 times, the quality of the fuel begins to wane. But he never forgets you and leaves it longer and longer periods as the fuel regenerates over time. Tudor lets us know that fuel is of the utmost importance to him and his kind. Without it, he fears annihilation. We see how he behaves when even a stranger leaves.
he will not let that go by without replacing the fuel somehow. Every bit of fuel counts, no matter how small. The dreaded instrument of quote-unquote no contact causes an injury that cannot be tolerated. If he is devaluing you and he is not getting the needed return because you are not feeling well or you're tired, then he might discard you to shock you and to get that shot in the arm of negative fuel. You may start to plead with him, get angry with him, start telling him how much you love him. He has no concern for the fact that you are unwell, because he cannot be without fuel, and thus be in a weakened position. He depends totally on other people for fuel.
And now we come to the conclusion. M. Scott Peck, who calls the narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths, quote-unquote, the people of the lie, he says that they are driven by fear, and here is a quote from him. They are terrified that the pretense will break down and they will be exposed to the world and to themselves. They are continually frightened that they will come face to face with their own evil. Of all the emotions, fear is the most painful. Regardless of how well they attempt to appear calm and collected in their daily dealings, the evil live their lives in fear. It is a terror and a suffering, so chronic, so interwoven into the fabric of their being. They live in almost unremitting apprehension. End of quote. Using their constructed personality, they trick you into loving them. And now that you're addicted, they play psychological games with you through triangulation or other manipulative behaviors. The main one is Skinner's quote-unquote random reinforcement, a quality of the unloving father archetype, and is toxic. Being criticized is hard to take, but the on again, off again of feeling special and then just as quickly being dismissed or put down in front of friends and family members is psychologically devastating and erodes one's self-esteem. The unloving father is stone cold and abusive, and the problem is that the empath has a hard time acknowledging that who they are with is evil. The unloved girl child in the empath, which is the sympathetic mechanism, is addicted to unloving father's negative intimacy. The empath wants to give the benefit of the doubt, but the unloved girl child wants the only kind of intimacy she has ever understood, which is abuse. This can go on, and it is imperative that we understand our collaboration with abuse. We see that we can be as helpful as possible, give guidance and insight, but we can never save them against their free will. And what they want is to persuade us to come down to their frequency and nourish them until we are an empty shell. As an empath, when you do not recognize the truth of who you are dealing with, meaning the evil intent behind who they are, you are simply enabling their negative behavior. So that brings us to the end of this chapter, and thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time for the conclusion.